I don't work at Donut Media anymore, and I started a new channel, this one. It's called Speed with 3 E's.
When some of the biggest names in car YouTube started walking away from the channels they helped build, fans knew something was off. On the surface, each exit sounded polite, even hopeful, framed as a fresh move or personal choice. But behind the careful words sits a much deeper story about control, pressure, money, and the slow shift from passion to corporate routine. Why are so many familiar hosts leaving now? And what are they avoiding saying outright? This is the story behind the exits no one can ignore. The quiet collapse behind car YouTube's biggest exits. Something is clearly changing in automotive media, and viewers are starting to notice it more with every new departure. Over the past few years, some of the most familiar faces in car content have stepped away from the same channels they helped grow into major names. This is no longer about one person leaving for a new opportunity or one team making a routine change. It feels bigger than that. It feels like a pattern that keeps repeating itself in front of the audience. That is what makes this moment so interesting. Fans are not reacting to unknown staff members quietly moving on behind the scenes. They are reacting to the people who gave these channels their flavor, energy, jokes, and personality. These were the hosts viewers looked forward to seeing. These were the people who made long videos feel fun, made technical topics feel easy to follow, and made a channel feel like more than a business. So when they leave, it does not feel small. It feels like the heart of the channel has changed. The facts behind some of these exits make that feeling even harder to ignore. Donut Media was acquired by Recurrent in November 2021. After that, longtime Donut hosts Jeremiah Burton and Zach Job went on to launch Big Time in 2024, while James Pumphrey later moved on to start Speed. Car Throttle had already been acquired by Dennis Publishing in 2019. When you place these developments side by side, they stop looking like separate events and start looking like pieces of the same story. What gives this story even more weight is the way these exits are usually explained in public. Most departure videos sound calm, respectful, and carefully worded. They speak about fresh starts, exciting plans, and moving into a new chapter. On the surface, that sounds positive. But many viewers sense that something deeper is being left unsaid. Rarely does anyone come out directly and admit that the work may have stopped feeling fun, that creativity may have narrowed, or that the business side may have slowly become too heavy. Instead, the message stays polished, while the real tension remains in the background. Of course, not every person leaves for the same reason. Some may want a different pace. Some may want more control. Some may simply want to try something new. But even with those differences, the larger pattern is becoming hard to dismiss. A channel starts with passion and strong personalities. It grows fast. Money enters the picture. More managers appear. More structure arrives. Creative freedom starts to shrink. Then, sooner or later, the very people who gave the brand its spark begin looking for a way out. That is why so many fans now feel this story is much bigger than one exit alone. It has become increasingly common for hosts of major automotive channels to quit in large numbers. But what is really driving these exits? Are the channels no longer pulling enough views to support them? Or are the hosts simply choosing to chase something more personal and independent? Now, let's uncover how success slowly changed the soul of automotive YouTube. The moment passion turned into a business plan. Most of the biggest automotive channels did not start as sleek media businesses with layers of planning. They began in a much simpler way. A few people loved cars, loved talking about cars, and loved sharing that excitement with anyone willing to watch. That honest energy became their biggest strength. Viewers were not only showing up for horsepower figures, lap times, or build costs. They were showing up for the feeling. The jokes felt natural. The reactions felt real. The passion was easy to trust. That was the magic, and it was the reason those channels grew so quickly. But once a channel becomes successful, other people begin to look at it differently. What once looked like a creative outlet starts to look like a business asset. Big numbers attract attention. Subscriber counts, ad revenue, brand deals, merch sales, and audience loyalty start making the channel look less like a group of car lovers with cameras, and more like a company that can be bought and pushed harder. That shift happened with channels like Donut Media and Car Throttle after their acquisitions. Financial pressure also hit Hoonigan's parent company, which entered Chapter 11, restructuring in 2024. When you see these events together, it becomes easier to understand why fans feel that something deeper has changed. On the surface, these deals always sound exciting. More money, bigger shoots, better equipment, stronger backing. And yes, some of those benefits can be real at first. The trouble begins when the main target changes. A creator-led channel usually wants to make memorable videos that people love. A corporate owner usually wants steady growth, safer output, and returns. Those aims can overlap, but they are not the same. Once that business mindset takes over, content starts being judged in a new way. It is no longer only about whether an idea is fun, bold, or worth trying. It becomes about efficiency, scale, brand safety, and repeat value. Strange ideas look risky. Passion projects start looking too narrow. The kind of video that once felt exciting in a brainstorm now has to survive meetings, budgets, and performance logic. Slowly, the channel begins to change. What once felt spontaneous starts feeling shaped from above. That is often the part viewers notice before they can even explain it clearly. The videos may still look expensive. The editing may be tighter. The thumbnails may be sharper. Yet the atmosphere becomes less relaxed, less playful, and less human. Fans often sum it up with one simple line: "It used to feel real." That reaction is not only nostalgia, it is often the audience sensing that, as the business grew, the freedom that made the channel special started to shrink. A clash of interests between hosts and their employers often leads to the departures of most hosts. But is this pattern limited to automotive YouTube, or are other niches facing the same problem? Now, let's dive into why expensive car content slowly pushes creativity into a corner. The costly pressure behind car YouTube's creative squeeze. There is another side to this story that many viewers never fully see. Automotive content may look exciting and easy on screen, but behind every polished upload is a business that can become painfully expensive to keep alive. That hidden pressure changes almost everything. It affects what gets filmed, what gets approved, how risks are judged, and how much freedom the people on camera really have. A creator making videos about gaming, films, or online trends can often produce strong content with a modest setup. Car media works very differently. The subject itself costs money before anyone even presses record. Vehicles may need to be bought, borrowed, shipped, fixed, cleaned, fueled, insured, stored, or upgraded. Some projects need custom parts. Others need mechanics, test locations, trailers, or track time. Then come the normal production costs: cameras, microphones, editors, travel, staff, shop rent, safety planning, and long shoot days. By the time one episode is finished, the bill can be far higher than most viewers would ever guess. That is where the pressure starts building. Once costs rise, every creative idea begins carrying more weight. A strange concept that might have sounded fun in a small team meeting now has to answer harder questions. Will it bring views? Will sponsors like it? Can the channel afford to take the risk? Will it make the money back? In a cheaper niche, creators can sometimes try odd ideas simply because they sound interesting. In automotive media, expensive ideas often get watched more closely, questioned more often, and trimmed down faster. Over time, that can change the mood of a whole channel. The people on screen may still smile, joke, and act relaxed, but the pressure behind the scenes can make everything feel tighter. Creativity starts competing with budget limits. Passion projects begin to look risky. Slow builds, unusual experiments, and niche stories become harder to defend when every upload is expected to perform quickly. Even a channel built on fun can start feeling stiff when each decision is tied to money, sponsors, and performance targets. This also helps explain why so many automotive creators sound lighter after they leave. They are not running from hard work. In many cases, they are stepping away from a setup where every idea comes with so much cost that someone is watching, approving, limiting, or cutting it. That kind of pressure slowly changes the tone of the work. It can make hosts more careful, videos more formulaic, and the atmosphere less joyful. So when fans wonder why car channels keep losing faces, they know part of the answer may be simple. Car media is not only creative, it is costly creative work, and cost always brings control. There is significant pressure on automotive channels to keep up with audience demand while managing the burden of growth. Yet, many of them continue to survive. But why are creators still choosing to leave? Will they openly admit how exhausting it can be to keep delivering at that level, or be diplomatic with the reasons for their exit? Let's find out. The quiet burnout behind automotive media. People who help build a channel do not usually walk away because they feel bored or want a view. Most of the time, they leave when the job they once loved starts feeling nothing like the job they signed up for. The outside world sees the brand, the status, and the spotlight. But inside, the daily experience can become less exciting than viewers imagine. A big channel can offer benefits. It can give a host money, recognition, reach, and the kind of stability many creators spend years trying to find. But those rewards often come with a trade-off. As the company grows, more people start standing between the creator and the work. Suddenly, there are meetings to attend, calls to take, reports to review, pitches to approve, sponsors to satisfy, and layers of management involved in decisions that once felt simple. For someone who got into automotive media to film builds, drive cars, tell stories, and share enthusiasm, that shift can feel draining. Then comes the pressure of performance data. Large media companies do not look only at whether an idea feels exciting or original. They also look at watch time, click-through rate, retention, advertiser appeal, and how easily a format can be repeated. Those numbers matter. They keep the lights on. But when they begin shaping too much of the creative process, something starts to shrink. The creator may still be making videos, but they are no longer chasing the idea that excites them most. They are chasing the idea that is most likely to perform safely. That is where the deeper frustration begins. It is not always loud. It is not always dramatic. It is often slow, quiet, and hard to explain in one sentence. A channel that once ran on personality starts leaning toward routine. The same host is still on screen, but with less freedom than before. The same brand still exists, but the person inside it feels less like a creator and more like a worker serving a system. From the viewer's side, the change can be hard to name. The videos may still look polished, the jokes may still land, but something feels tighter, more careful, less alive. That is why the smartest way to understand these exists is not through conspiracy or scandal. It is through accumulation. Bit by bit, the work becomes more procedural and less personal. Bit by bit, the spark fades. And one day, the creator realizes they are no longer building something they love. They are helping maintain a machine. Departure videos will never say that so directly, but many viewers can already hear it hiding in the silence. Many hosts leave automotive channels because the demands of the industry can grow far beyond what they originally signed up for. But what do they usually do after walking away? Do they move into something entirely different? Or do they start their own channels so they can finally control how the work is done? Let's uncover the details. The moment independence stops looking risky. Once that pressure builds for long enough, leaving no longer looks wild. It starts to look like the most reasonable choice in the room. From the outside, fans may wonder why a host would walk away from a famous channel with millions of views, a brand, and exposure. But from the inside, the choice can begin to make perfect sense. After years inside a big automotive channel, many creators already know how the system works. They know how to film, edit, pitch, publish, and build a loyal audience. They know how sponsorships work. They know how brand deals are handled. They know what makes people click and what makes them stay. And after all that time, they also learn something more important. A huge part of the audience is not there only for the company name. They are there for the host. That is what makes these exits so powerful. When a familiar face leaves, fans are not simply losing an employee from a business. They feel like they are watching one of the main reasons they cared in the first place step out the door. That is why the brand left behind often looks shaken. The logo may still be there. The studio may still be there. But the emotional pull has changed. People build habits around personalities. They return for tone, humor, trust, and the feeling that the person on screen means what they say. Going independent changes more than the business model. It changes the emotional weight of the work. A creator who works for themselves no longer has to spend half the week sitting in meetings, making pitch decks, waiting on approvals, or defending every unusual idea to layers of managers. They can make the videos they care about, in the style they want, at the pace that makes sense for them. They can try something odd, small, personal, or specific without first proving it fits a system. Of course, independence is not easy. The pressure does not disappear. Views still matter. Sponsors still matter. Bills still need to be paid. But there is a real difference between struggling for your own vision and struggling for a structure that no longer feels like yours. One kind of pressure can still feel worth it. The other slowly drains the joy out of the work. That is why independent channels often feel fresh in the beginning. Fans are not only reacting to new uploads, they are reacting to relief. The host sounds freer. The jokes come easier. The ideas feel more focused. And suddenly, viewers remember what they were attached to all along. It was never only the polished brand. It was the person bringing it to life. Many hosts choose to start their own channels after leaving the automotive platforms they helped build, even though that decision comes with full responsibility. But does that decision truly pay off over time? And what should automotive media learn from a pattern like this? Now, let's unravel the bigger lesson for automotive media. The real loss behind automotive media's biggest departures. This story reaches far beyond YouTube. The same pattern showed up in traditional car television long before today's creator exits started making headlines online. For years, Top Gear proved that people do not fall in love with a motoring show only because of its name, set, or budget. They fall in love with the people on screen, the mood they create, and the way they see the car world. That truth became impossible to ignore when Jeremy Clarkson was dropped by the BBC in 2015. The fallout was immediate and huge. Then, in 2016, Chris Evans stepped down from the rebooted Top Gear after only one series. Later, Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and James May stayed together on the Grand Tour until their final special aired in September 2024. Through all those changes, one lesson remained steady. Viewers stay loyal to hosts, chemistry, and personality far more than they stay loyal to a title alone. That is why what is happening now in automotive media feels so important. It is not only about contracts ending or familiar faces moving on. It is a reminder that even the biggest channels cannot simply buy the one thing that matters most. A company can pay for better studios, larger crews, stronger ad deals, and wider reach. It can hire more staff, sharpen the editing, and flood the screen with polish. But it cannot easily replace trust. It cannot manufacture chemistry on command. It cannot fake the feeling that the people on screen truly care about the stories they are telling and the machines they are talking about. Once that feeling fades, the brand may still survive on paper, but to the audience, it rarely feels the same again. That is the real meaning behind this moment. Big automotive channels are losing the hosts who helped give them life. And what often goes unsaid is not some dramatic hidden plot. In many cases, the reason is simpler and more believable than that. As a channel grows larger, the pressure around it usually grows too. Money brings expectations. Growth brings layers. Business goals move closer to the center. Slowly, the very freedom and personality that built the audience start getting pushed aside by process, control, and performance demands. When that happens, the hosts who once felt proud to help build the brand begin asking themselves a hard question. Are they still creating something they believe in? Or are they now simply helping keep a machine running? Fans sense that change faster than executives expect, because viewers can forgive rough edges and smaller budgets, but they rarely stay loyal once the spark begins to fade. More and more of them seem to be answering that question the same way. They are choosing to leave, take the risk, and build something smaller that feels more honest and more alive. And as long as viewers keep following people more than logos, that choice will continue to make perfect sense. So, what do you think about the reasons automotive channels are losing their hosts? Were their leaving justified? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.